Hello, I'm Sue Anstiss, the host of The Game Changers, with a quick message before this episode. As we've had thousands of new listeners in 2023, we thought we'd take this small break between series 15 and 16 to share some of our back catalogue. We've loved listening back to these earlier episodes and hope that you also enjoy hearing from these incredible leaders in women's sport. And while I'm here, don't forget that the whole of my book, Game On, The Unstoppable Rise of Women's Sport, is also free to listen to in Series 13 of the podcast. Every episode is me reading a chapter of the book. Now, it's time for the Game Changers. Hello and welcome to the Game Changers podcast. I'm Sue Anstiss, a founding trustee of the Women's Sport Trust and CEO of Promote, one of the UK's leading sports communications agencies. I am delighted to say that this series of The Game Changers is supported by Barclays and will focus on fearless women in football, reinforcing Barclays' huge commitment to the beautiful game. In 2019, the bank announced the biggest ever sponsorship of women's sport in the UK as the Barclays FA Women's Super League became Europe's first fully professional women's football league. A huge amount of their investment also went into establishing the Girls Football School Partnerships, with the aim of ensuring that all girls in England have equal access to football in schools. And giving girls the same opportunities in football as boys is certainly something that's close to the hearts of all the fearless women I've talked to for this series. In this episode, you'll hear from the football legend that is Kelly Smith MBE. Kelly is widely regarded as one of the world's greatest ever female players. Kelly scored a record 46 goals for England in 117 internationals before retiring after a 20-year career in 2015. Playing for Arsenal, Kelly won the league title 6 times and the FA Cup 5 times. She played in 3 European Championships and 2 World Cups and represented Team GB at London 2012. Kelly also had a career in the US and in 2008 was awarded an MBE for her services to women's football. Kelly invited me to meet her in her beautiful home in North London, where I also got to meet Coda, her Boston Terrier, who sat happily with us throughout the interview. I started by asking Kelly if she could take me back to her life growing up in Watford and her earliest memories of playing football.
Probably from the age of about 6 or 7, I was just in my back garden, juggling the ball by myself, kicking it against the garage and, just enjoying myself with the football with my brother in our front room. We'd put the couches together and pretend that they were goals. A few times, we'd break ornaments and my mum would get mad. So we weren't allowed a ball, so we'd use a tennis ball and then more ornaments would get broken. So we'd actually end up using some socks that we'd wrapped up. So it's probably from around that age, and I just loved having the ball at my feet. And then I actually, my brother played for Garston Boys a few years after that, and I wanted to play on his team. Obviously, I was 2 years older than him, but wasn't allowed because I was a girl. So I'd always go and watch him play and train over the local park, and I'd collect the balls when the ball went down the hill, and I'd dribble it back up and try and get seen by the coaches, by just impressing them with my skills, dribbling skills back up, and I was hoping that one of them would ask me to come and play.
And were there other girls playing? Did you play with other girls at all at that time, football?
No, I was the only girl in my whole school. Most of the girls would be off doing hopscotch and jump rope and stuff like that, and every time the bell would ring for playtime, I was with the boys, the only girl, jumpers down for goalposts and just playing until the bell rung, and then we have to go back in for class. And as soon as school was over, we were back out again on the playground, and I'd actually come home just when it was, starting to get dark for dinner, and then I couldn't wait to get back to school again to play football.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we talk a lot about that whole, if you can't see it, you can't be it, but you didn't really see anyone. Have you ever wondered why it was, you think, that you had that passion?
Yeah, I never really had a female football role model because it wasn't really the thing to do back then. I didn't know that England had a women's football team. It was never on TV. It was never in the papers. But it was just something that I was really kind of comfortable with and good at, and just wanted to do it every single day. And even when I was at school, I would kick a stone home all the way to my front door. From the moment I left school, I'd kick a stone down the pavement and just work on kicking it. It was just, I don't know, it was just inbred in me from a very young age.
And I believe you were kicked off not one but two boys' teams for being a girl. Why was that at the time?
I played for Garston Boys. I eventually got the call to go and play.
The scouts saw you coming up the hill.
I think my dad had a word with the coach of the upper age group, so I started playing with them and made loads of friends, which I still have today. And I was just a bit of a tomboy back then. I had quite short hair and looked like a boy, and word got out that there was this really good lad on the team scoring loads of goals, and it became a problem when the opposition's parents found out that I was a girl. They'd start shouting some nasty stuff at me on the sidelines, and they said that they weren't going to field a team against me and my team because I was the wrong sex and that it was a boys' sport and that I shouldn't be playing. I should be going playing netball or hockey or something like that. So my dad sat me down and said, look, you can't play anymore. We'll find you another team. And I was devastated because, I'm only 8 or 9 at this time. And just wanted to do something that I was passionate about and good at, and being told that I couldn't do it was soul destroying. So we found another team in the same town, Herons FC. Same thing happened again. I'd be scoring lots of goals per game, and then it was never my teammates or the boys I was playing against. It was the parents of the opposition that had a problem with it. I think they were a little bit embarrassed by
their sons getting
trounced and a little bit made fun of by me taking the ball around them and scoring numerous goals.
It's shocking, really, isn't it, when you think back to it? And you must have been so devastated at the time, but did it change your attitude to the game? Did you think about going to play netball or other sports?
No, not really. I think that kind of, fueled the fire in my belly kind of thing, because I didn't want anybody else to tell me that I couldn't do something that I was really good at and loved. I didn't understand it. As a kid, you wouldn't when you're being told that you can't do this.
Doesn't seem right even now.
I think, that hunger and that desire to prove people wrong started from then, really.
And I've seen that fabulous Dads and Daughters campaign with SSE a couple of years ago, and that supportive relationship with your dad so clear. So was he a big influence in that starting out of your career?
Yeah, massively. He's always been my number one fan, an advocate, and followed me all over the world. Seen me play in China and the tournaments that I've played in. It was at the Olympics. Most every England home game he would make, not so much the away games, but he's always been there, taken me to training and driven me up and down the country in tournaments. So he's my number one fan, and I love him so much for doing that, because if he wouldn't have done that, then I probably wouldn't have reached the heights that I had.
I love that element also of you and him in the car and that time talking and analysing. I think that's so important, isn't it, as parents of children that are playing sport? It's not just being on the sidelines, it's the valuable time that you get to share together.
Yeah, obviously the car journeys up and down the country, we'd talk, we'd chat, we'd connect. He would never really judge me and my football performance, and he would just be supportive and encouraging, whereas a lot of parents now are kind of like quite aggressive on the sidelines and hard on their children. He was never really like that with me. Don't get me wrong, he'd tell me when I did wrong or good in a positive way. But he was always very, very supportive. And, my mother also has never really loved football or liked football, but she was supportive in a different way in terms of washing the kit and having the dinner ready on a Sunday afternoon when we come in. She hated coming to the games when it was cold. She didn't like to see me get fouled or injured. So I was quite lucky that I had two parents that were, there for me.
And dinner ready when you got home. That's all good. It's very important, isn't it? And you've obviously dedicated so much time as a girl to football. So do you ever feel that you missed out, or did you feel you missed out as a teenager on other stuff when you were training so hard?
I missed out on loads of birthday parties, social events, family events, weddings. As I started taking it more seriously, because I realised that I couldn't be out partying and doing that kind of thing, because I really wanted to focus on myself, getting the right amount of sleep and in bed on time and waking up and feeling fresh. But I wouldn't change it for the world, because I love my career. 20 odd years I got the chance to travel the world obviously played in America professionally, played for England, travelled, played in 2 World Cups, 4 European Championships and an Olympics, and looking back now, a few parties doesn't. Now I get that. Those sacrifices that you made all those years ago, I can get that now because football is a short career, and I wanted to throw my whole being into it to be ready and focused. And I've got those parties and celebrations and weddings now because I'm still young enough to do that, and at home now and retired.
Excellent. And you were incredibly young, just 16. I've got teenage daughters now, but just 16 when you went off to the US. How did that come about?
I was playing in the Watford Football Festival, which is a tournament just close to my house, and we were playing against an American girls' side in the final. And I was playing for a team called Wembley at the time. And I got noticed by a scout that was watching the game. And the scout got talking to my father on the sidelines and said, your daughter's really good. Would she be interested in pursuing a soccer scholarship out in America? And at that point in my being, I was, studying a BTEC sports degree for 2 years and not really knowing where my career was going. Women's football in this country, I was only training 2 nights a week, and I wanted to be training more and really focus on being a professional, and that couldn't have happened in England. So I was fortunate enough that timings were right. My dad and myself sat down with the scout after and mapped out, give my contact details out there, and a few universities got in contact, and I kind of pursued it that way, just via the phone, and then they flew me out to the university to have a look. And it was all done pretty much soon after, after a year of negotiations and getting me over there.
Had it been on your radar, the opportunity for scholarships at the time? Were you aware that other girls going out there?
Yeah, I was aware of it because it was kind of like, for me, that was more like a professional setting, because you're training every day whilst going to university and getting a degree, but you're training 5-6 days a week, whereas, as I said, in England we were only training 2 nights a week, and it wasn't very popular at the time. So for me to get this opportunity, I jumped at it as scared and just really scared, because I was taking myself out of my comfort zone and taking myself to a country that I knew nothing about, and a coach that I'd built up a kind of a relationship with over the phone, but didn't know anybody, and just throwing myself into that situation. But I was following a dream, because for me that was being a professional athlete, training every day. There was no professional league there, but off the back of me going to university, the professional league started in 2001. So I had a dream that I couldn't see, but it happened when I was out there. It started to happen.
And it must have been, I say, quite overwhelming to have gone, Watford to New Jersey at 16, a lot to adjust to. You've talked about, in your fabulous autobiography, the difference in the attitude of the game in the US then in the 90s to the UK, and the difference in perhaps the fitness levels and so on of players. Do you think that still exists today, or?
No, I think it's changed wholeheartedly, full 360 in terms of professionalism. I took myself to the US because I was unhappy with the way the game was developing in this country, and now I look how all the players now are on centralised contracts. You're getting paid to play. All the players are focused, full-time professionals in the league. It's just come full circle. And now when youngsters come to me and said, should I go to America on a soccer scholarship? I'm like, well, you don't need to now. If you want to be a professional in this country, this is probably the best league in the world now. So you don't need to go to America like I did. You can stay here, and if your dreams and ambitions are to play for England, play in the FAWSL, because it's a fantastic league, very competitive, and everything's there for you now.
Excellent. That's such good news, isn't it? And you've certainly had across your career your fair share of injuries, I think it's fair to say. I guess, can you share how that feels at the time? So for non-athletes like me, you get injured and that's, a bit of a bummer. But actually for you, it's as a professional athlete, that's so much more. So how does it feel when you're at the peak of your fitness and an elite player? Yeah,
it's very hard to deal with. Any player that's injured for a long period of time will tell you that it's very self-isolating, because you're obviously used to training with the team every day on the pitch, seeing them in the changing rooms, and then all of a sudden, you're in a cast, or you've had surgery and you're on crutches and you're unable to move and do certain things. You're just housebound for a few weeks, and then you're in the rehab room by yourself. You're not out with the team. You see them going out, and you want to be doing that. And it's a very lonely place to be. So it's important that, you know, players in this day and age are able to speak to a sports psychologist just to offload what they're thinking and they're feeling, because it is all natural thoughts of just feeling sad and, you know, not poor me, but it is hard to deal with because you can't do something that you are paid and love to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess without the endorphins that sport and physical activity brings to you also.
Yeah, and I found it very hard watching the team because I, you know, had to be out there as soon as your rehab was done. Then you'd be out watching the team perform, and that it just was like hammering you into the ground even more. Yeah. And then when you pull yourself away from it, then you're isolating yourself from the players. When you're in it and you're watching them, it's hard to take and it's hurtful. So it's important that you actually communicate and speak to someone about how you're feeling, which I didn't do at the time, and that's why I got into my problems.
Yeah. I was going to move on to that, if that's okay. So you've been really open, which is fantastic, about your struggles with alcohol when you were in the States. Can you just talk through how that difficult relationship began? And I guess it's through injury, really, that started that, is it? Yeah.
I just felt like I lost my identity because I couldn't play anymore, and I wasn't the most confident person off the football pitch. I communicated when I had the ball at my feet and was playing. So when I couldn't communicate on the pitch, I just felt like I was nothing and injured and self-excluding myself. It just was a lonely place, and alcohol made me feel better. And I would kind of drink on a daily basis after my rehab sessions just to numb the pain that I was feeling and forget about the fact that I couldn't play football. And that's kind of where it started. And then I had injury after injury. As soon as I get back from my first injury, another one would hit, and it wouldn't be like a small muscle tear or something like that would be a couple of weeks. It would be like a long layoff again. Yeah. And I felt like I was just getting myself back and playing fit and healthy, and then bang, another injury would happen. I was right back to where I was when that first injury happened, just really low, and pulled myself away again.
And away from home and away from family and comforts as well.
Yeah, and wasn't really speaking with my family that much when I was out there because of the time difference. And
didn't have FaceTime then?
No, not at all. Yeah, it was like we'd set a certain time on a Sunday to chat, and then when I wasn't feeling that well, I didn't want to talk. So I was even excluding myself and pulling myself away from my family, and they didn't really know what was going on with me because I'm so far away. So I just kind of spiraled a little bit.
And you've talked about that you spent time at the Sporting Chance Clinic, which is set up obviously by Arsenal and England captain Tony Adams. What was that experience like? And obviously positively really helped you.
Yeah, I mean, that was a second stint. I was actually in the Priory for a few weeks before that, and then didn't really complete the whole programme. I pulled myself out of there. And then, Tony Adams, it was more athlete-related rehab, where you sit down and on one-on-one with a counsellor and you talk about your demons and how you're feeling, and there was yoga sessions, gym sessions. It was just kind of getting you back on track. And I still have, a rapport with Tony and people at the clinic now.
I think addiction seems to be such a huge issue for people who have played sport at elite level, and not just alcohol, drugs, but gambling as well. And it feels like it's a bit more prevalent in football. Do you think that is the case in terms of professional footballers and so on, post-career?
Yeah, I don't know why it is. It's, because you play at such a high level for so long and you get the buzz and the feeling, and then, when that's taken away or you can't do that anymore, you're kind of looking for something else somewhere else. And when you get that through gambling or that buzz, then if you have that addictive personality like I do, then you get yourself in problems.
Yeah. And do you feel now people are more able to talk about those insecurities and how the mental health issues that they might have post-game or around injury?
Yeah, I think in this day and age now, it's important that we do talk about mental health. I think it's more acceptable in this day and age now. I think it's important that the Sporting Chance Clinic, all the football clubs know about it, and they've done a lot of work within the clubs to promote themselves. And if you are struggling, the phone number's there or the email's there to get in contact with them. Like I did an appearance the other day with Prince William for the Mind charity in terms of mental health and talking and opening up, and it's really prevalent in men, especially suicide. I'm very passionate about it because I've had my struggles in the past, so I really want to be talking about it, and that it's okay to talk, it helps. Whereas when I was going through my problems, I just shut down and didn't, it was weak to talk, it was weak to have a problem, but it's the reverse of that. Everyone has problems, everyone's human.
I think it's so good as you as a woman, as a female athlete as well, as I think men are talking about it and there's a lot of support around that, but it's been great to see you happy to step forward and talk about it too.
Yeah, I think it's important that you talk, especially, have a platform, a profile from my playing days that, I could have just pretended that everything was okay, and I started to do that the early part of my career. When I do interviews, they'd say, how did you deal with your injury? And I'd just brush it under the carpet, not really feeling comfortable talking about my addiction and how I really did deal with my injuries. And then when I got a little bit older, I thought, I need to be honest. It's hurting me to lie, and I want to help other people.
Have a really positive impact.
Yeah, exactly. So
I've looked back at lots of your interviews and your goals in preparing, talking to you, and it does feel like, you mentioned it earlier, you almost have this different personality on the pitch to off the pitch. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I always say I'm kind of Jekyll and Hyde. When I was playing, as soon as I stepped on that pitch, I was just shoulders back, proud, whether it be for Arsenal or England, and just really wanted to win and do everything I could to help my team in that situation. And I would kind of probably get into a few too many scraps in my day, but I was just so passionate about winning and performing and trying to get my teammates up for it. And then when I stepped off the pitch, I was really quite not that person, quite shy, quite kept myself to myself and a little bit reserved. So when I was Kelly Smith the footballer, I was really confident. When I was Kelly Smith off the pitch, I was quite quiet. Yeah, interesting.
I love the story of you hiding in the bathroom once rather than being there to make an acceptance speech at an awards. And yet, years on, you're a studio pundit for Fox during the World Cup and BT Sport and Sky and so on. So how have you made that change? I guess what changed? That must have taken something for you to put yourself out there.
I think it's just growing up, having a family, being comfortable within my own skin. Yeah, just putting yourself in situations where you're not comfortable. Yeah. I remember that day as clear as that time in America. I was just so shy. The thought of getting up and speaking in front of this whole banquet and accepting this award, I just felt like I could not do it. Yeah. I froze. And as soon as I knew that my name was going to be called, I was out the door. But now, I've come, now I don't mind doing it. I did a speech the other day for the England youth team, and it's just talking about your experiences now and just being comfortable with who you are.
And do you feel the world's changed a lot in terms of female pundits? Obviously more commentators and pundits for both the men's and the women's game as well.
Yeah, massively. Over the past, 4 or 5 years, I've seen it. I think it's great to see females on there talking about the women's game and the men's game, especially the men's game, because you get more credibility about it, because there's male pundits and there's male coaches in the women's game. So why can't we transfer our skills into the men's game? We've got just as much experience playing football at tournaments.
And more so than some of the commentators and pundits.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the men's pundits haven't played in half as many tournaments as some of my colleagues, such as Eniola, Alex Scott, Rachel Brown, Sue Smith. They've played in many tournaments across a number of years. So I think it's great to see, and I think it's also good that young boys and girls see female role models talking about football. Absolutely. On TV. It's great.
Good to hear. And amongst your amazing football achievements, you also played, you mentioned earlier, London 2012. So I guess how did being part of an Olympic Games compare to other championships?
It was, I didn't know what to expect, because the opportunity had never been there for the GB side. It was just the fact that it was in London that we was allowed this once-off Great Britain side. So it was kind of put together all kind of last minute. But it was fantastic just to be in the athletes' village. It's something that you'd never experienced before, and to see Usain Bolt and Mo Farah just walking about, in the big dinner hall, and different athletes just going off and walking to their events. It was just unreal, because when you're playing international football, you're so far removed from all that kind of thing. You're just in a hotel by yourself with your team on the training pitch, and then back in, and you're just focused there for that one game. Whereas this was just a whole different experience, mixing with different athletes and going. You were allowed to go and watch other events. You know, that would never really happen when you're in tournament football in a World Cup. You'll just be focused in your team hotel, recovering, eating the right foods, watching, video of the team or how you can just perform and be better. But the Olympics was just a whole different ball game in terms of, just experiencing different things and being relaxed and having the freedom to go out and watch other things.
And in terms of games, because you almost kicked off the Olympics in terms of the first game at Cardiff, that was the first...
Yeah, we actually missed the opening ceremony. We didn't get a chance to be in that because we had to be in Cardiff. It was weird because we were wearing a different kit. The blue, it was a blue and red kit, so it was just a different feeling about it. And we had obviously different nationalities: Kim Little from Scotland, Jane Ross, Iffy from Scotland. So it was just different, but really, really enjoyable.
And the Brazil game at Wembley, and obviously we've broken some of those records now, but at the time, to have that many people coming to watch women's football in the UK.
Yeah, 75,000 at Wembley. I remember walking out at Wembley. For me, has always been the best stadium that I've ever played in terms of what it means to be from England and play at the national stadium, and the grass and just the seats, and everything about it is just phenomenal. You walk out and you're just like, wow. And then to see all the people there, nearly a full house. I remember we scored quite early, and the nerves were settled, and it was just built up because Marta was one of the big names at the time. Yeah, and we obviously won the game, but then got knocked out in the quarterfinals against Canada. It wasn't meant to be.
But fantastic experience. And we've talked a lot how sport builds resilience over time, and it certainly seems like that's something you've got in spades over time. So having overcome so many injuries and challenges, did you think about giving up during your career? Were there times when you thought, this is it, I need to stop now? Or did you always know you were going to keep on?
Yeah, there were times when I was really low and depressed and sad, and 2 knee surgeries, 2 broken legs, 3 ligaments ripped off my ankle. I think after each injury, it just makes you stronger and more hungry to get back and prove people wrong, because after a serious injury like that, people start doubting you, and you hear that, and it just adds fire in your belly and makes you think, I want to come back fitter, faster and stronger and prove people wrong. And I always knew that I could come back from an injury because I had that positive mindset in terms of pushing myself to be back. But yeah, there were times when I wanted to quit, when I was really low, but I didn't, and that's what I'm most proud of, because there were some really dark times. But yeah, my resilience really shone through in that. I'm not going to lie, there were times when I just wanted to say, enough now, I need to focus on a different career. But there was just something in me. You'd have a couple of days at rehab where it'd be really tough and really hard and emotional, and then the next day you'd feel really good and you'd see progress. So that was those days where you see progress were really uplifting, and I used those more than the negative days to push me through.
Excellent. And you retired in 2017?
2015 it was, just before the World Cup.
But obviously it's always a tough decision, but was it a particularly tough decision, or did it just feel like the right time for you there?
Yeah, it just felt like the right time. I had an injury just before that, and I wanted to come back from that. I tore those 3 ligaments off my ankle bone, and I knew I wasn't done then. I still knew I had a lot to give, and I knew I could get back from that. So I managed to play for Arsenal for that one season, won the FA Cup, and for me that was just the final goodbye, because it was at Wembley, and I had so much drive and energy to perform in that game, and lucky enough we won the trophy. And then that season I knew it in the back of my mind, I wanted to hang my boots up, because I wanted to start a family too, and my age was pushing on and my body clock was ticking, and I felt like I'd done everything in my career. I'd retired from England to focus on that 1 year left playing at Arsenal, and I was lucky enough that as soon as I retired I got pregnant straight away, so I was quite lucky. And it was on your terms as well, wasn't it? I guess that's the thing. Psychologically, it helps you. You're not in control, but you have made that decision rather than it being... Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough that, like, you're right, I got to choose when I retired. Some players, some athletes don't. They have to retire through injury or whatever. So, I was lucky enough that it was all on my terms, and I had that final say. Going on to start a family, it's kind of fabulous next stage of your life. But what was the hardest part? Have you missed elements of giving up playing competitively? What's the bits that you miss most? I miss seeing all the my teammates on a daily basis, having the banter in the changing rooms and going away on the team bus and connecting with everyone there. And I miss putting the shirt on and playing on a Sunday. They're the main bits, but I really, with 2 kids now, I don't get chance to miss it. Miss it too much. But when I see games on TV, especially the England games, I think, I would like to do that again, obviously.
And do you miss the ball at your feet? Do you miss the physical feeling of playing football?
I don't right now, especially the last 2 years, but when I'd play in a charity game or anything like that, like I played in Switzerland for a FIFA Legends game a couple of years back, and I trained a little bit for it, and then when I was on that pitch I was like, oh my god, I want to come back and I want to come out of retirement and do that. But you know what, I played 60 minutes and then for a week later I couldn't actually move. My knee swelled up, my ankles swelled, my hamstrings, it hurt to sit on the toilet. When I was playing for those 60 minutes I was like, I'm coming back, I'm doing it. But for a week, literally, I was in bits. So I couldn't, there's no way I could.
And do you think enough's been done now to help female footballers to prepare for that retirement life after football?
No, I don't think there is. Maybe that's a gap in the market. I think it's very difficult for a number of players when they've dedicated their whole life to playing football, and then you don't know how to be after, because you're not that footballer anymore. That identity that you have.
And almost professionalism almost makes that harder, and that becomes all absorbing. You are able just to have that as your career. Many more women will be able to do that in the future, but they're not juggling studying or another career alongside playing.
Yeah, I think it's important that, the last couple of years that you are coming to the end, that you start looking and assessing and getting those coaching qualifications or whatever interests that you have in the afterlife of football. But it is kind of a worrying time when you don't have those qualifications and all you've done is play football. You can't kind of start thinking, what am I going to do next? But there's a few players that have had problems coming to the end.
You seem incredibly modest about your achievements, but how does it feel when people talk about you as being a trailblazer for the women's game?
Yeah, I got a little bit embarrassed by it, if I'm honest, because you just feel like you're just normal and just had a great career. But there's a number of us, not just me and my generation, there's Faye White, Casey Stoney, Rachel Yankee, and even players that come before me, Hope Powell, Mo Marley. I can list a load of other females that have helped progress the women's game along the way and made it where it is today. And I think that's important that the youngsters know that the way the game is right now, it's not been like that forever. We had to fight for so much to get paid, to have better pitches, to have better changing rooms. And obviously now St George's Park is there for all the senior side, for the England side, and we didn't have that. We were training on really crappy pitches. I try and make it known that the women's game is in a fantastic place now and it's going to reach better heights, but it hasn't been like that for a number of years. So for us to help that game along the way, I feel quite proud, to be named as a trailblazer, as you say.
Excellent. And before you had the children, you were coaching at Arsenal. So is that something you'd like to return to?
Right now, I just literally raising these 2 little rugrats that I have on a daily basis has all my focus, all my attention. It's not to say that I won't get back into coaching, but right now, the next few years, I'm just going to focus on them until they're at school, and then see what options are out there. I would like to get back eventually. I wouldn't say it comes naturally to me. I think football, the ball's at your feet. I was loving it and enjoying my career so much, but I have to really practice and get the hours coaching, because it's a difficult thing to do. I'm not going to lie, managing a team and a group of players, but I have to be fully committed to it like I was as a player. I just throw everything into it, and right now I can't do that. But never say never.
And at the height of your career, I think you're earning about 25 grand a year or so, almost a fraction of what some of the male professional players earning in a week. How did that make you feel at the time?
It never really bothered me. I never really took that as a negative. I think the way the game was
because you were pleased to have something, it almost progressing.
It was like small little movements within the game. A lot of my teammates before that were losing money to play for England and club football. We're only getting paid minimum wage just to play. So yeah, when I was making that amount of money, I was just pleased to be earning a salary and living off of that, because a lot of my other teammates were struggling. I wasn't struggling, fortunately.
And do you think there'll come a time when women are commanding similar salaries to the male professional players?
That's what the highest end. I'm not sure about that. No. I think little improvements each year. I think it's great that now the whole league in this country is full-time professional. Yeah. That's a massive progression, because when I was playing, it was only a couple of teams that were professional and getting paid. So the parity within the league wasn't very fair. Now the competition's there. A lot of the top international players want to come over and perform in this league. Good. They're realising that it's very competitive, and they see...
And that's great.
And that's where America used to be. Yeah. All the top international players used to go over to the States. Now they're coming to England. There's so many nationalities now in the FAWSL. And all the spectators get to see top-level players within our country.
And are there elements of the men's game that you wouldn't want to see replicated in the women's game as it grows and develops?
VAR.
Where do we start?
Yeah, no, all the troubles along with that right now. Yeah. That's a big topic. No, I just like the way the women's game is. It's very pure. There's no real diving or antics to try and get people sent off. I think there's way too much of that in the men's game, and I don't see the women's game going that way. I love the fact that the women's players spend time with the fans after and engage them and take photographs and autographs and communicate with them after and build that rapport. I love that within the women's game. I don't see that at all in the men's game. As soon as the final whistle, they're off. Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, that's really good. Good to hear, and hopefully that can continue. And I know that you're an ambassador with Barclays and working with them around the FA Schools partnership. What does that involve, and why you decided to get involved with that?
I just think it's important that we get into schools and try and get as many girls interested in football as possible, because that is the drop-off rate when, whether it's senior school or primary school, they lose interest. So if, I can get in and take some sessions and share my story. Barclays have put a lot of money into the game to help promote it, and that's just one of the small aspects of me being an ambassador and going into these schools and encouraging girls to play, and that there is a career in it now, not just if they want to play football. You can be a referee, you can be a coach, you can be a journalist, anything you can within the football game now, a pundit. Whereas a good few years ago, the opportunities probably weren't there.
Yeah. I love that. I love the idea of it's not just about playing and whatever. There's so many different options.
Yeah, and it's good for self-confidence, resilience, leadership. It's not just about playing. It can bring you so many other aspects to growing up as a young individual in a school setting. I think it's important that there's a role model there for them. Like I said before, there was no role models for me, a female role model. So if I can go in and just ignite or do something to a few female players out there, then it's great.
And finally, we've seen so many incredible developments, as you alluded to, in women's football in the last few years, but obviously we've still got a long way to go. So if I could wave a magic wand and you were sort of head of the FA for a month or so, what are the first things you'd like to change in the women's game, do you think?
That's a very, very broad question. You need to ask Sue Campbell that.
I did speak to her too, actually.
Use that answer. She's the figurehead of that. I don't really know. I think we're heading in the right direction in terms of product. I think the product on the pitch is probably the best it's ever been. The resources now, the FA of so many people in positions, marketing, comms, the games on TV, accessibility to the general public. I think the players now are household names, which is important because then you have an identity, you can follow that female. I don't know, it's obviously attendances. We still want to get more bums on seats and keep them coming back, and the attendances are up every year. The pure fact that the England team have done well over the last couple of years, and they have had that accessibility on TV. It really, really helps, so people can tune in and watch and follow. But I'm not sure I'm fully qualified to move the game forward in that way.
But it's going in the right direction.
Oh yeah, massively. I just pinch myself because from when I first started playing, we were playing in big baggy kits. The ankle sock bit I remember was up to my calf. So now they have their own England female fitted kit. That's just a small part of it. They just get so much now from from when I first started playing. There's, youth teams now in school teams, and it's just brilliant to see from when I first started to nothing to where the game is now.
Thanks so much to Kelly for her incredible openness and honesty. What a truly delightful person she is, and so humble about her amazing achievements. I'm hugely grateful to Barclays for their support with the Game Changers, which enables us to take the stories of these incredible women in football to a huge new audience. I'd love to hear what you think about the Game Changers podcast. So please, if you could, take a moment to leave a review or give us a rating. It really does make a big difference. To make sure you don't miss out on future new episodes, please subscribe to the Game Changers, and you can find out more about all my guests at promotepr.com/gamechangers. Next week, I'll be talking to Jackie Oatley MBE. Jackie is a hugely respected sports presenter, hosting football and darts for ITV, and best known for being the first female commentator on BBC's Match of the Day. She recently took over as the first female host of Sky Sports Sunday Supplement, and we explore the reactions to this high-profile role on the podcast.
You think I've no idea what I'm talking about, don't you? Because I'm a lass. What on earth would she know? I bet she doesn't know about our team. Bet she couldn't have that passion. I've actually heard these things, which are hilarious.
The Game Changers. Fearless women in football.